So, welcome to Pax Europiana. This time we are very honored to have the state president, the former state president Buja Nishani of the Republic of Albania as a special guest to honor the discussions about peace in Europe and about Albanians' progress towards the European Union. I'm very honored. Mr. President, would you like to introduce yourself to the international audience, please?
First of all, thank you very much for your invitation. It's my pleasure to talk with you personally and talking about the topics that your views are presenting today in different discussions. So thank you very much. As you said, I was the head of state of Albania from 2012 till 2017. And I concluded a 5-year term in office of the head of the state. I came in this office after long contribution and commitments in politics. Since 2005, I was elected in Parliament of Albania. And after that, I served in Albania twice as Minister of Interior and another term as Minister of Justice. So when I was elected as a president, I was represented in Parliament, a majority, by 2 parties. The main coalition party was the center-right party, the Democratic Party, which I have been and still nowadays I'm a member of this party. And the minor member of coalition was from the center-left of the parties in Albania. But for me, it was important to strengthen the office of the president in terms of promoting the European spirit of Albania. I have been committed every day, not just promoted the image of Albania, supporting and banking the strengthening of our democratic institutions, our democracy as a very difficult, but the only way that we have to build our future here in our countries. And the second priority for me was supporting the process of the integration of Albania in the European Union as a process, but above all, as a spirit, as a strong will of our citizens. Nowadays, I'm still involved in politics. I'm a member of the Democratic Party in Albania, which is the center-right party in Albania, member of EPP. And in the same time, I have been elected as the head of the National Council of this party. But of course, my view still is in working together with all actors in the country for strengthening the efforts of Albanian society, everybody who is involved in politics or outside of politics, with civil society and all other citizens of the country, especially the young generation, for walking fast but very strong way in the path of European integration. So this is the main view to my commitments in politics, and of course focusing on the democracy and strengthening our institutions, which will bring after that all other benefits which a country, democracy, and which a free society deserve to have it.
Mr. President, under your leadership, Albania has made tremendous progress. It's now a NATO member already. It's a EU candidate. But let me first take you back to the terrible times of communism, because you recently posted a photo of a church which was exploded during the communist times. And can you explain a bit how to our international audience how terrible communism was in Albania back in the 60s and 70s?
Thank you very much for that question. It's important for us to present a little bit the kind of nightmare which Albanian people suffered during the communist time. first of all, let me to strengthen or to emphasize something. Albania as a nation, as a people, as a society, as a culture, as a civilization, belongs to Europe, to European era, to European space since the thousands of years. But during our history, we have had two terrible accidents, if I can call, but the worst times and the very big cost that we have paid. First has been 500 years under the Ottoman occupation, Ottoman Empire occupation. And right after the 500 years of Ottoman Empire occupation, we just achieved to have our independence on 1912, and from 1912 to 1944, which was the time when the Second World War was ended, we entered in another nightmare, which was the communist regime. So Albania had a very little space to build the country in a normal way since our independence 1912 to 1944. And after that, it was impossible for Albania as a country, as a society, as a nation to demonstrate its European spirit, its European views, its European culture, its European civilization. Because the communism destroyed everything, not just the economy, not just the infrastructure, but above all, it destroyed the culture, humanity, and social dimension of human being in Albania. You mentioned a case. They destroyed and blew up all the churches and the mosques because Albania, in terms of faith, is a multi-cultural countries. In Albania, we have a Muslim community, we have Orthodox community, we have a Catholic community. So communism in Albania was tougher and much bad than in all former East European countries. Was even more Stalinist than the Union Soviet itself. Because when you destroy not just the economy, not just the infrastructure of the country, but you destroy the faith of the people, of human being, in terms to prevail the ideology about the faith, about the trust of the human being to its family, to itself, to its society, to its country, to its life. It's unbelievable for the free people, especially in the European countries. So it has been a terrible time. Consequences of it, we still are suffering, mostly on the cultural and way of thinking to some generation. But big changes have happened since Albania entered in a new path when the communist collapsed in Albania since 1990. As you mentioned, we have achieved some unbelievable achievements decades ago, such the membership in NATO, which I have been considered this achievement as the second one most important after our independence on 1912, because not the question of only the question of security, because I do not consider the NATO as only a security mechanism or security community, but most of them as a civilization community, as a political community in terms of promoting the principles and values of freedom, peace, security, coexistence, mutual respect, modernization. So becoming a member of NATO for us has been a dream, but it's nowadays a reality. And Albania has tried very seriously to be a trusted and a valuable member of this family of the NATO, offering our contribution in our possibilities, of course, in all kinds of operation of the NATO, since in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Chad, and other important missions. But we still have lots of challenges ahead in terms of economy, in terms of democracy, even in terms of security, because security nowadays is challenged by different sides, by different ways. We have still a terrorism, which is a big threat. We have instability in our region, and our region, I mean the Western Balkan, it's a famous one for instability in the past. Was a region so close to Europe, or let's say part of Europe, which had a war just a decade ago, and still the hate among different group of people and communities still exist in our region. So we have lots of challenges to face it, and we have to prepare ourselves in all kinds of dimensions, but having in our fundamental the democracy, the freedom, the spirit of the peace and coexistence, and focusing on the best project that we have. And I think that the European integration is the best project that we have in our region, not just in Albania.
Mr. President, during your leadership, there was also the 100-year celebration of the statehood and independence of Albania. And you also established a monument directly in the center of Tirana to commemorate the Berlin Wall, the fall of the Berlin Wall, but also the Spac concentration camp, which was the key concentration camp of communist Albania. Can you describe why you did it and why it's so important to keep this memory alive?
Because as a fundament of preserving the peace, stability, the freedom, is that never forget the atrocities and the crimes of communism and any kind of dictatorship. In Albania, we suffer very much, as I said, from the communism for 5 decades, roughly. Dozens of thousands of people have been killed. Even a majority of them still do not have a place nowadays to rest. We don't know where they are, where their remains are. 100,000 of people suffered in concentrating camps. Even children have died in these camps, in concentrated camps. And the Spac that you mentioned has been one of the most most terrible. When the terror was 24 to 24 hours a day, and the people were forced to such a terrible work to do in tunnels for providing the coal for the government, and having just maybe 200 grams of bread per day and just a cup of tea and nothing else. So it was a terrible time when the people have been tortured and with fatal casualties. People died because of tortures in the cells of this prison, and people have been killed by the guards of these prisons without any explanation and without any law. Even because of the dictatorship, we had some law provided by dictatorship. So has been one of the most terrible concentrated camp in Albania, but we have lots of concentrated camps in the north of the country, in the south of the country, in the west of the country. Even it was forbidden to hear the English or language, or German language, or Italian language, or French language. It was very dangerous to to hear the Beatles or other singers, or to see the European Championship or World Championship in football without the permission by the government. So it has been such a terrible time that we have never to forget, not for kind of revenge, but for preserving our freedom, for consolidating our democracy and things like that in different ways, never to happen again. So that has been my idea, that has been my commitments, to put just a small piece of stone in the wall that we have to build in terms to demonstrate what terrible is the communism, what atrocities and crimes happen in this country, isolated from the eyes and ears of the world, and especially from the European public. And in terms that to demonstrate how much important is the freedom and democracy, and to be inspired for going on the democracy and the freedom way and path in our future.
Mr. President, let me ask, in communist Albania, was it possible to leave the country, to migrate, to go to Europe or to America? Was that possible or not?
Yeah, after the 1990s, when the communism was collapsed and you know, the pluralism was started to work, and we entered in quite different political system. Of course, everybody was free, and many of them flew the country, and some of them immigrated to the United States, some immigrated to European Union. Of course, they are free people, but still I emphasize that Albania needs to have an investigation of the communism crimes during that time. As I said, not for a kind of revenge, but to put the justice in the place which justice deserves to be. And just to create a model of the punishment of crimes, doesn't matter in which time they happened, because the communist crimes has been the crimes against the humanity, has been crimes against even the laws of the time, that time. Still, Albania has lost this opportunity to investigate and to punish through the due judiciary process the crimes of during the communist times. And the people who are responsible for this kind of crime, they have to be responsible in front of the law, and they must face the justice and the laws during these times in Albania. But even because we have lost time not fulfilling this responsibility of a society and the institutions, again, we have time to work in a proper way, just creating a model, referring the best European models for investigating the crimes, because a crime is a crime. It must be judged only by the justice, not by political humors or political behaviors of individuals, different individuals. Doesn't matter what kind of ideology those individuals represent. The justice is above all, and justice has to work. So I still hope very much that a day we will have such model even in Albania. Again, let me to emphasize, not aiming the revenge and the punishment of individuals, but because of preserving our freedom and democracy, and don't allow to happen again in one form or another form the pressure from one side to another side of society because of the thoughts, because of the freedom of speech, because of freedom of faith, because of liberty, because of democracy.
Mr. President, when Albania opened up in the year 1990-91, it was also in a very difficult geostrategic situation. There was also parallel the breakup of Yugoslavia. And in 91, there was the Republic of Macedonia. It became independent and it was international then recognized. But also Kosovo wanted to be independent and declared independence in 91. And only Albania, as the only country, recognized Kosovo back then as the first republic. Would you, and then all the things happened that happened, unfortunately, but would you say when the world would have listened to Albania in 91, we could have avoided many of the crises and human rights abuses in Kosovo later?
Yeah, the Kosovo was one of the examples that what happened during the 90s, end of 90s in our region. We had such kind of terrible war between Serbia and Croatia. We had terrible things that happened in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have also genocide and such crimes happened in Kosovo. So we saw lots of terrible things happen in our region during this time. And of course that I feel sorry today that the international community didn't react it properly in the right time. But of course, thanks God, finally NATO intervened in the case of Kosovo, and of course, ultimately concluding atrocities and the genocides which happen in this part of such a civilization continent, such European is. Yeah. So, of course, that led me to say very frankly that Albania is a nation, because in Kosovo 95% of the population are Albanian people. But Albania as a nation, and it's in its history, maybe for 100 years, has been a kind put of itself in a kind of sandwich, political sandwich, and pressure as a sandwich from the northeast and from the southeast of its border. The only normal space that we had to communicate was the west, which is to the European area. But we couldn't to use it in a proper way for having alliances and working together for a number of reasons because of the history that time. Of course, that the wars and atrocities and such terrible things that happened in our region during the 90s was because of the kind of agenda and the philosophy of the Serbian hegemony over the others in our region. It has been demonstrated openly by the Serbian, especially by the Milosevic culture and theory and platform that time, which cost a lot to our region, to all the nation of this region, to all the people of this region, even to Serbia itself. But because they saw in the end of the war, they saw itself isolated, destroyed by all kinds of things, economically, civilization, they culture, they image, and so on. Of course, that the pan-Slavic agenda has been to extend in our region, has been present for 100 years. But it is a reality now in our region. All countries and all people who exist and live in our space, and we cannot ignore each other. Albania is a nation. Besides what happened in our past, we want very much to live in peace and good relation with our neighbors and all the countries and the people in our region. Because if we will be in a hate environment, in war, all of us will be loser. No one will be a winner on this situation. And I fully support any attempt to improve the relations with our countries, with our people, with our nations. I have supported very much all the projects of cooperation during the time that I was in the office of the President of the Republic. And I have mentioned several times, it's been very good that during my 5 years term in office, I met more than 10 times all the heads of states of our region, different meetings from Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Kosovo, and so on. And being in a table, of course, we discussed officially way, but we discussed even in very open way, non-official way. So we have lots of possibility to strengthen the good understanding and the trust among us. Besides this kind of spirit, we have the process of European integration, which is the best leverage for all of us to work together in the same project, in a common future. So realities are reality, and we cannot ignore. We never forget. But of course, we are focusing on the future, and the future is a future of coexistence. It's a mutual respect, and it's a future of peace and stability. We need peace and stability. We need economic improvement. We need infrastructure improvement. But above all, we need the culture and civilization standards improvement. Think of a way, the way of thinking in our communication, in our addressing to each other, and in our addressing our future as a nation, as a countries, and as a states.
Mr. President, in 1999, there was this massive genocidal expulsion of Albanians from Kosovo, and there were also a lot of refugees in Albania. And then NATO intervened and also won and liberated Kosovo. Let me ask you, Mr. President, was the NATO intervention a just war?
NATO intervention ultimately was efforts to stop the genocide, to stop the expulsion of 1 million people from their homes, from their countries, from the land. And during this time, we have seen and we have been witnesses that even the people have been executed. The 1,000 women raped, and the old people burned alive. Terrible things that never imagined before to happen in such areas in the 20th century. So nowadays, of course, that we can see that some other point of views trying to focus NATO intervention in the Kosovo, which was not intervention just in Kosovo, but it was intervention in the Western Balkans to put and to restore the peace in the Western Balkans, in the Southeast Europe. So to focus NATO as a military intervention, it was not just a military intervention. It was an operation to restore the peace through the military tools, which that time was the only one alternative to restore the peace, to stop the genocide, and to create such environment that we are enjoying nowadays, the environment of peace and stability, and the environment when all heads of states of all these countries that were involved in war sit together, talk together, have lunch together, and focusing together on such discussion that European integration is in the main topic in the table. So NATO intervention has been a kind of solution, the best solution for all countries, even for the Serbian itself, because the Serbian achieved to escape from the dictatorship of Milosevic, from the horrible culture Milosevic area, which consider everybody else not just a normal human being, but something that might be destroyed, might be expelled, might be executed. So NATO contributed in not just in freedom and the liberation of the people in the country from genocide and from being executed and disappeared from the earth, such the Milosevic platform was, but creating the best environment for peace and stability for the future of this region. And nowadays, when Albania is a member of NATO, Montenegro is a member, North Macedonia is a member, Kosovo has a great aspiration to be a member of NATO. Croatia is a member of NATO. Slovenia is a member of NATO. In the south, Greece is a member of NATO. It's absolutely a safe place, not only for the people of this region, but it's a safe place and guarantee, strong guarantee for entire the European area in the southeast wing of our continent. I mean, let me to explain, when I say for the safety, not just in the military point of view, but even in terms of challenging our daily life, our economy, our culture, our civilization, our rights, and above all our future. So it's amazing nowadays to see that how much important was that intervention and how much improvement it produced in Southeast Europe, in Western Balkan countries, not just in Kosovo, not just in Bosnia and Herzegovina, not just in other countries, but as entire of Southeast Europe and the Western Balkans for peace, stability, and another environment, for positive environment, for peaceful environment, to have possibility and opportunity to think for better things.
Mr. President, in 2008, Kosovo then declared independence, and you were a member of the Albanian government. How was that moment of Kosovo independence after so many years of independence struggle for you in February 2008?
The Kosovo independence was another step on a process which started with this evolving of the former Yugoslavia. We had a process when Slovenia declared independence, Croatia declared independence, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Montenegro. So even the Kosovo, which was part of this federation, and after atrocities that they suffered from the Serbian regime at that time, they achieved through their resistance, through their efforts, and the supporting by main and bigger and strongest democracy of the world to declare its independence. So independence of Kosovo, it's a normal process which came from this process. It was not just a unique case. It was very important that international justice, International Court of Justice, declared the independence of Kosovo, fulfilling the legitimacy of international law. As a right decision for a people, for a country, and which was completely fulfilling the international rights on this process. It was very, very important, this decision of International Court toward the independence of Kosovo. Of course, I know that Serbian are, especially some nationalist part of Serbian public are feeling not good for them. But it's not only for Kosovo. The nationalists in Serbia are not feeling good, even for a situation that exists in their relation with Croatia, in their relation with Montenegro, with their relation with North Macedonia, with their relation with Bosnia and Herzegovina. But there is no other alternatives, only to to see the reality and to respect the reality. Albania considered the independence of Kosovo as extremely important step towards the peace and stability in our region. We, of course, the 95% of Kosovo are Albanian, belong to Albanian nationality, but we see Kosovo as our neighbor country and as a country which belong to all nationalities who live in this country. Even the minorities, all minorities, is their own country, and they all together have to build their future in this independent country. As you have seen, and everybody has seen, nowadays they are enjoying their country, they are enjoying their states, and they are working hard to build their future in their own state, in their own institution, in their own country. Of course, in our region, in our common region, in our common spirit, and above all in the spirit of European integration as a process. Because the European integration is not just a political decision, it's not just you know, a decision by some leaders. It's a process, very difficult process, but it's a process which has no alternative for Albania, for my country. But I do believe even for the others. Not because of what we have taught from the history, but above all for what we need to see in the future for our coming generations. So the independence of Kosovo is absolutely a normal thing that happened in our region, not as a procedure, but as a reality, political, social reality, which happened. Is not a process which never get back. It's a process which, of course, will go forward. They need, as a society, as Albania needs, as other countries in our region need, to improve their democracy, to strengthen their own institutions, to strengthen the economy, and to work together with the other countries, other nations, for prosper common future.
Mr. President, on the 1st of April 2009, Albania officially joined NATO. You have worked already in the 90s in the Ministry of Defense for NATO relation, and you were then also, as a Minister of Interior, responsible for preparation of NATO accession in the field of interior. Can you tell me what was the feeling you had when you finally joined NATO in 2009, and what did it mean for your country?
Well, it was not an easy way. It was very hard work, and we were aware about our responsibilities. But the main responsibility is to feel responsibility. Because if you feel your responsibility, you will do the exact thing that you need to do. In the Ministry of Interior, I had two main processes to fulfill on behalf of the government, on behalf of Albania at that time. First was the fight against the organized crime, which was a real concern for country, for our society, but even for European area, especially the drug trafficking. And we declared a strategy with zero tolerance for drug trafficking and organized crime at that time. We achieved to dissolve more than 204 criminal groups from 2007 till 2009. And the drug trafficking, especially the cannabis trafficking, reduced from, I mean, it was a very big concern, trafficking from Albania to Italy, especially in the Puglia region, because it's a very short way to boat the drug from Albania, from south of Albania to south of Italy. And it was maybe 1,700 tons per year, and we achieved to reduce it in 0 gram for heavy drugs such cocaine and heroin, and only just a few kilograms of cannabis. And we sent in jail all members of those 204 criminal groups that I mentioned before, working closely with the judiciary and prosecutor offices. We extradite more than 200 Albanian criminals who left Albania and were hiding in different European countries, even some of them in South America. And we achieved to find them and to extradite them and to put in justice here in Albania. And second one was to provide some security for the movement of people and our cross-boarding points. We saw for that time very weak identification documents. And I worked hard to create for the first time in Albania the electronic register of the database of the civil status of our citizens. And by the way, I had the chance to learn that Austria at that time was classified as the top country in the world for being secure on the identification documents of the citizens. And we had a meeting in Slovenia as a Minister of Interiors of our region, Western Balkans, and in that meeting came the Minister of Interior of Austria at the time, Mr. Guter Platter. I remember very well his name. Maybe later he became the Governor of Tyrol.
Yes.
But at that time he was a member. He was Minister of Interior of Austria, 2007, and I pleased him to help us for starting to build a new register, electronic register of civil status database for our citizens. And we had immediately excellent assistance from Ministry of Interior of Austria. And we achieved to have within 12 months, with a very, very effective cost, just 1.2 million euros, entire national electronic registry of civil status of databases of our citizens, which served for us after that to produce the ID cards and biometric passports, which is one of the most secure documents to travel in the south of Albania. So we achieved such achievements during the time that I was in the Ministry of Interior, and think that we did a great service for the country and for the people. Of course, it was not my only my serving. We had the staff and the people, and above all the political view of the government at that time, and above all the assistance, very, very friendly assistance from our partners and friends. In that time, I mentioned the Austrian Ministry of Interior, because really we had such great assistance and help that never forget. And I'll repeat many times, and I have wrote lots of information and memories about that.
Mr. President, in 2012, you became elected as a state president of the Republic of Albania, and it was a very young NATO ally, but also you sent troops abroad to also contribute to the NATO missions. Can you describe this process and where Albanians have been contributing to NATO, and also who is a very strong partner, the partnership with America, and all these aspects, please?
Yeah, of course. For being member of NATO for us was a great honor and privilege. But to feel privileged is just the first one. After feeling privileged, you have to feel responsible. You have to feel responsible, and you have to work for fulfilling your responsibilities and your duties. And of course, having in mind that Albania, as a small country with very limited military resources and financial resources, of course, we couldn't do as much as the other countries can do in this alliance. But we offer everything that we can do, and we did very well our job and our duties. We send our troops in all missions that NATO has been involved, especially in Iraq and Afghanistan. We have been very active there. We have our soldiers fallen during these missions there for offering peace and stability, not on the region, but even for other parts of the world, because we know very well what kind of challenges security is facing because of the situation in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and entire that region there. So I'm very happy today to see that Albania is very respectful member of NATO by all other members. And in one side and in other side, I'm happy to see that Albania is fulfilling its duties and its responsibilities in a very good way, in a proper way within the alliance. I hope very much that in the future we will do much better, especially starting for increasing the budget for our defense. Of course, working together with our alliance and working in an appropriate way with the strategy of alliance and topics of alliance and milestones of alliance. But it creates and it needs political responsibility and seriosity here in Albania, in decision makers during these processes. And but I trust very much on the will of our society, which is a very strong one. And above all, what I mentioned since our beginning of our conversation, in the culture and mentality and civilization which belong to Albanian people, which is a European one, totally. Of course, we do not have the same economical standards which Austria, Germany, France, Italy, Greece, and other European countries have, but we have the same way of thinking. We have the same culture, besides the difficulties and terrible accidents that we have had in the past. Of course, the time is needed, but the time has to be used properly and not to lose any second because time always is running, and the people have to be running together with time in the right path. So in that culture, in that philosophy, I believe that Albania will do much more in the future.
Mr. President, Albania has a very strong partnership with America, and President George W. Bush was a great promoter of Albanian NATO membership. And how did you work together with America during your time as president?
United States of America is a strategic partner for us, and together with European Union, both of them are the main strategic alliance for Albania as a country, for Albania as a nation, and for our future. That's no doubt, and that's clear. Working together with United States, Albania has promoted much more the democracy, the security, the cooperation in terms of serving in the Western Balkans as much as we can for strengthening good understanding and stability in the region. In other way, we see the connection and the interlink between United States and European Union as one, as a very important one, because if we refer to our history, and not ancient history, but very early, very late history, United States and Europe together fought and won the Second World War. United States and Europe fought together and won the fight against the terrorism. They won the Cold War. They promoted and strengthened together the democracy in Euro-Atlantic space, which is the most prosperous, most democratic, most developed area on the world. And still, I deeply believe that this alliance will be, let's say, the most important alliance in the world for the future, serving not just the United States and the Europe in itself, but serving entire the world, mostly on the developing civilization and security. So Albania is lucky to be part of this alliance. And Albania is lucky to be considered as ally by United States and by the European Union. Of course, we have excellent relations with United States. Relations will, of course, will strengthen every day in the future. As I said, for us, United States remain the main strategic partner, together with European Union, also as they are only two main strategic partner for Albania. We will see our future in a great shape and shining for the generation to come in Albania and in our region.
Mr. President, as a state president, you put a strong focus on the celebration 100 years of Albanian statehood. And in the framework also, the helmet and the sword of Skanderbeg was returned for 3 months from Austria to Tirana. And it was a great celebration and a great historic event. Can you describe how many Albanians saw it and what was happening at that moment?
Yeah, you know, for every nation, symbols, the real symbols are important because they not just demonstrate the history, they just confirm a part of culture. You see even my back, the helmet of Skanderbeg, is a symbol of our existence, is a symbol of our resistance, is a symbol of our freedom, it's a symbol of our Europeanism, is a symbol of our Westernism, and it's a symbol of being together. Of course, that for us, it's very good that now this symbol is safe in Vienna Museum. And even this fact that this symbol is in Vienna Museum demonstrates some very interesting and concrete relations which exist between our countries and people in the past for preserving the history and culture, both sides. We were so thankful to the Austrian authorities that offered the helmet to transfer temporarily in our museum during the 100 years of our independence celebrations. And I may say that million people came and saw, not just from Albanian cities, but even from abroad, from our diaspora. They came and enjoyed it. And of course, we're back again to the museum in Vienna, because we are of course aware that it is safe there. It is safe there and will be to serve for generation and generation, not just for Albanian generation, but European generation to learn and not to forget the history. Above all, not to forget the lessons taught by the history.
Mr. President, during your state presidency, Albania achieved the EU candidate status towards the European Union in 2014. Can you explain, do you see Albania now very fast in the European Union? What's your vision for European Albania?
Well, let me to say two main things. First, European integration for Albania has no alternative. It is the only way that we have and we will walk. Secondly, it is a process. As I said, it's not just a signature. It's not just a decision on politicians' tables. It's a process. It's a process serving to the people, serving to our future. In which kind of terms? Serving for strengthening our democracy, preserving our democracy, guaranteeing what the freedom offer, strengthening our institution, developing our economy, and making the people and society in Albania to think, to live, and to be oriented in the same standards such the European citizens are thinking and working and living in their own countries nowadays. Being a process, it's not easy. It's a very difficult process. Besides, it's a process which will be always challenged by different forms of challenges. But we cannot be hidden without a finger. We have to take our responsibility and work hard. Sometimes I have heard that there is a kind of fatigue, so-called, among the European countries or European societies. I believe that it's a little bit speculation on that. Of course, there are lots of challenges and different way of things among the societies and groups of societies in different countries in European Union member countries. But the main spirit of majority of public opinion of the people in the European environment, in European area, is the integration, is living together. Of course, that living together do not mean that I have to profit by your suffering or by your rights. Living together means to contribute all together. Of course, somebody will contribute more because is stronger than the others and so on. But everybody has to think, has to live as a contributor. So I do believe that the process will produce another contributor, not a consumer. Of course, that we love very much to live in better conditions. Let's say it's a normal way of thinking for human being. All of us are ambitious to have a better life for ourselves, for our children, for our generations to come. But to achieve these standards, we have to contribute firstly. We have, so even on that process, which is important one, which will be always challenged, I know, I'm aware about that, but by end of this tunnel, there is a very, very strong shining light for my country, for our people, for our society, and for all of those people who really think that living together, respecting each other, contributing all of us for a common better future is the formula, the magic formula for realizing the thoughts and the views of the fathers of the European Union.
Mr. President, Croatia and Albania joined NATO together in 2009, and Croatia was then allowed already in 2013 as a full member of the European Union and has prospered and developed very well. In Albania, it was like this, 2014, the candidate status, and there was big hope that there will be major progress and fast accession. And now, obviously, that was also the responsibility of Prime Minister Rama from the Socialist Party. He was promising fast accession. But now, 8 years later, still there is no start of the negotiations. And where is the issue? What is going wrong? Why is Albania not really faster in the European Union?
Yeah, well, when I mentioned the European integration as a process, I had in mind, in my mind, some stations, the steps that we have to get forward. You have to, when I mentioned that you have to be a contributor first, and after that a consumer of freedom, prosperity, and so on. I had in mind these stations that we have, strengthening institution, because a simple European citizen cannot accept to share the achievements of European Union, the standards of European Union, with a society which do not respect the rule of law. I believe that European citizens will not agree to share the prosperity with a society which do not fight the corruption. I believe that European citizens will not agree to share their common future with a society which do not promote the development through the working, or with a society which is not open-minded. And during this kind of models, in Albania, during the government of Mr. Rama, Albania has done some, unfortunately, some steps back in terms of respecting the rule of law. In Albania nowadays is completely destroyed the control and balance among the powers. We have all kind of powers concentrating just in one hand. The legislative is totally controlled by Mr. Rama. It's a parliament with one party. Besides, in that case, it's a part of responsibility, even the opposition itself. But anyway, the control of the parliament is 100% by the Mr. Rama. Mr. Rama is the prime minister and controls 100% of the executive branch of the power. They are putting rapidly total control over the judiciary. They control more than 90% of the media. So controlling all kinds of powers. And besides that, starting to build a kind of parallel state with organized crime groups and drug traffickers. So in that reality, European Union cannot stay without words. They have always advised Albania what to do. They have put some conditions, I mean some criteria during the discussions of the European Council, have been very clear for putting the criteria that Albanian society, Albanian as a country, has to be fulfilled, which are unlikely to be fulfilled by the Rama government because of this mentality, this kind of situation, when corruption, criminality, and the politics, monopoly of the power, all powers by one hand, which is example we cannot be accepted by the European culture, by the European model. So really, the European integration process is in danger, in a crossroad in Albania. But I hope very much that upcoming election, which are after 2 weeks, will be a chance for Albanian citizens, for Albanian society, to start a new way, to start a new path, changing completely the culture. We do not need, I have mentioned even in the domestic debate, we do not need a random or a kind of formal rotation of the power to leave a government from offices and to come another government in offices formally. We need a big change, starting from a new culture of governing, starting with a new moral of the governing. Opposition today has potential to do this. And I hope very much that Albanian people, Albanian society will support a new model, a new moral, a new way of governing. And in this process, everything after that will be possible to not just to realize, but even to approach what Albanian people and Albanian society deserve to have.
Mr. President, during the time of the Albanian economic miracle from 2005 to 2013, there was amazing progress in infrastructure, in investments, in also reforming and preparing for European membership. And what exactly happened now between 2014 and 2021? What were the big achievements of Prime Minister Rama in the last 8 years?
Unfortunately, we do not have anything to say dealing with achievements. 8 years without any achievements. We do not have just a single foreign investment coming in Albania during 8 years when the Mr. Rama is in power. And Albania is thirsty for foreign European investments. Till 2013, we had lots of companies from Germany, from Austria, from Sweden, from from Britain, to come to Albania and to invest, especially in energy, in infrastructure, in tourism, because Albania it's a miracle in terms of resources to use for economy and for developments. You know, goods might ship from Europe to near Asia through Albania without very short time. Boats come from Italy to Albania without 8 hours, and approach the near Asia very shortly. And infrastructure in Albania till 2013 has been improved a lot. But again, I see the main challenge, the mentality and the culture of corruption. If a corruption became a culture, it's the most dangerous thing for a society. You know, nowadays it's a big problem when very well-known organizations, such organizations which do the investigation on the criterias and the public works and the budgeting are focused in Albania as a main corrupted country in our region. It's very bad for us. So if we can, and we can challenge strongly the corruption as a mentality, as a culture, as a way of thinking, and as a kind of work on the public offices, we will have a great opportunity to develop our economy and to welcome lots of foreign and especially European investors to come in Albania, because Albania offers lots of resources in the water resources, in energy resources, in the tourism, in infrastructure. You know, Albania is a country which count more than 300 days per year as a sunny days. So it's considered, of course, in terms of surface and population, a country right after Norway, dealing with water resources. So it's a country which offers lots of opportunities, not only for Albanian people, but even for very big and serious investors from the European countries. And working together, we will prosper together. So, but first we have to start with new culture, with new mentality, which beginning with fight corruption and firing everybody. Doesn't matter he is a president of the country, it doesn't matter he is a prime minister, he is a minister, he's a powerful man, from offices of the public places. If we just consider and see a single way or behavior of the corruption. And what I have proposed is a kind of, Albania needs to have a kind of a special law of vetting the wealthy of the people who are involved in politics. If you do not have justify resources for your wealth, it means that you have profit without legitimacy, and you have to face after that a due process to confiscate what you do not justify legally, and to face the law after that, because we need a clean environment for politicians, for decision makers, for representatives, and after that the trust will increase among the citizens, and the way will be a normal one for people to do the best for themselves. And being the best for themselves they have done the best for the country.
Mr. President, in 2004, during the presidency of George W. Bush, there was the big enlargement wave of NATO with 7 new countries and of the European Union with 10 new countries. And that was very successful in 2004. Now in 2024, with President Biden now elected in America, do you see the opportunity that the 3 NATO members of the Balkans, that is Montenegro, Albania, North Macedonia, and they, with American help and with many partners in the European Union and a lot of reforms in Albania and in Macedonia, Montenegro, they also join the European Union together?
I trust very much, and I'm enthusiastic about the vision of President Biden, because I believe that his great experience as a politician, especially as a statesman, and his experiences in the past will help not just only the United States as an important voice and place in the world, but also even the partners of the United States. And European Union remain the main partner of the United States. So on that point of view, President Biden has expressed openly his view, especially on the relations with alliance, with its alliance and especially in the NATO relations, in relations with European Union. So when the United States and the European Union work together and focused on the common goals, dealing with freedom, security, prosperity, and development, I think that entire the world is better. So in that framework, our region will have more attention and more commitments by Biden administration, and by the way, after that, even the European Union, of course, will be more successful in its commitment and its engagement in our region. So this synergy between United States and European Union, not only in their experiences in the past working together, but even in the common commitments in front of very serious challenges ahead, will help, of course, even the Western Balkans and all countries, which through the European process and NATO membership will serve only their future, and they will understand that this is the best way, this is the most efficient way for good things, for better things.
Mr. President, do you see North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Albania together in the European Union in the 2020s?
Maybe it's too early for me in 2020s, but I think that the process will be accelerated. I hope very much that the process will be accelerated. Of course, it's a reciprocal process, but the main challenges belong to us. And we as an aspiration country, we have to fulfill our obligatory and our responsibilities and our duties. And of course, if we will fulfill and will convince the European citizens, European societies, that we are ready, as I said, to contribute as much as we can with our possibilities, with our resources, in a common family, of course, the decision will be very easy for all actors, and all obstacles and challenges will be weak and will disappear itself. And the final, let's say, will and decision will be accomplished.
Mr. President, if the Democratic Party and its allies will win the April elections in Albania, will you be able to fulfill the transformation of Albania into a EU member state?
That's the responsibility of the new government if they will win the elections. I hope very much that the new government will fulfill it, because I trust on the will which exists. I trust on the resources which exist. I trust on seriousness, but of course it's up to the new government. Because of that, I mentioned before that we do not need a very formal rotation of the power. We need a kind of new area in the culture, in the model of governing. Resources exist, possibilities and opportunity exist. It's up to us to fulfill responsibilities and to take responsibilities.
Mr. President, I would like to thank you for this interview. I wish you also personally to express it would be wonderful if Albania joins the European Union very fast. It's a beautiful country. It's a wonderful country. And also let me thank you very much for your time and also for sharing so much important inside information about the history of the last 30 years of a turbulent but ultimately very successful transformation, and your contribution and your leadership in this transformation of European Albania to join NATO. Thanks a lot for everything.
I thank you very much for offering me such opportunity. It was a pleasure. It was a very nice conversation, and it was a chance for me to share views with you, and wish you also all the best in your contributions.
Thanks a lot. I will close now the recording.